Okay, so my coaching style. So I have a very specific coaching and scaling process that I believe in 100% of the time. I've seen it work with over 100 clients. I've coached on this process consistently, but this will never limit your creativity. So we have a very simple process that we're going to teach you, but don't let that limit your creativity. We will be creative with how we want you all to grow your businesses. I also give 50% of the how, and you can decide on what that other 50% is for yourself, right? So I love strategy. I'm a strategy girl through and through. And so I will give you 50% of the how, and then you will have to come up with the other 50% on how that relates to you. I'm very, very direct. I'm very direct. I don't sugarcoat nothing. I don't hold nothing back. I'm very, very direct. I may hurt your feelings, and I love you at the same time. I promise. I love you at the same time. The two are not mutually exclusive, right? And so I might say something that you may not want to hear. That's often what, if you looked at any of the coaching call replays, you'll see, oh, this wasn't the coaching that I wanted. This necessarily wasn't what I wanted to hear. And it's out of love. It's 100% out of love. And so the two aren't mutually exclusive. I may hurt your feelings, and it's because I love you. And so I reward vulnerability, and vulnerability will reward you, right? So the coaching is only as good as vulnerable as you get with me, right? So oftentimes when I'm coaching, especially and multiple six-figure earners, you all have something to lose, right? You all have something to lose. Many of you are full-time in your businesses, right? You all have something to lose. And so you may try to share parts of the situation, but not the full situation, or share only half of the story and not the full story. So I really encourage you all to be vulnerable, and vulnerability will always reward you. You'll always get a benefit from being vulnerable. I'm also cocky. I'm very, very cocky, and you should be too. Everyone in this room should be cocky about their work, and cockiness will look differently for everybody. Brick is clapping. Right? I'm cocky, and you should be cocky too. Women of color can never brag enough. We can never, ever brag enough, right? Yay, yay, yay. Everyone's coaching is also unique, so don't rush your business. I've also seen people, again, going back to vulnerability, they will embellish certain aspects of their business because they want to get certain coaching from me, right? It's typically they want me to, tell them to do a group and get the coaching to do a group or put together a group when they necessarily aren't there yet. And so everyone's coaching is unique, right? Don't rush your business and think that something is wrong or you have to lie in order to get the same coaching. You don't have to do that, right? So just realize that everyone's business is different, and you will develop thoughts about me. I was just talking at dinner last night with a few people about people don't realize that it's normal to have thoughts about your coach. It's normal to have thoughts about a coaching program. That's very, very normal. You'll develop thoughts about me. I ain't mad at you, right? It's a normal process. I have many thoughts about my own coaches, right? But don't let that stop you from getting results. Right? I've been saying this recently for my own thoughts about myself. You can hate me, but my shit still works. You can hate me, but my shit still works. Right? I really learned that lesson. I'll talk a lot about it during Happy Clients, Sad Clients. Clients may not like certain decisions I make or how I say things or how I do things, but they can't say my shit don't work. Right? And so just keep that in mind too. You will have thoughts about me, but that doesn't have to stop you from getting results. Cool? Cool. Okay. I also wanted to talk a little bit about how to get coached. And so I think this is so important too, and this is how I really interpret my coaching, and I think it's how I'm so coachable myself. So millionaires run with an idea. What is your ability to run with an idea? They take something that a mentor says and they run with it, making it their own. They don't wait for a checklist. Right? So what is your ability to run with an idea, to run with a thought, to run with the concept? What is your ability to run with an idea? And so there will be $1 million ideas thrown in this room. I'll be like, hey, try this. Hey, try that. Your teammate, your table mate will be like, hey, try this. Hey, try that, right? There will be so many $1 million ideas in this room, and it's up to you on how you take that coaching. It's up to you. It's up to you how far you run with it and how you make it your own. The best idea will actually come from your own brainstorming about what we talk about today and throughout the rest of this journey, right? The best ideas will come from your own brainstorming on what we talk about today. So if you go into Clear Convictions, I talk about this in one of the videos, and I'll share the story here really quickly. So I was a dance minor in undergrad, and I had this really tough teacher. No one liked her. I had a really, really, really tough teacher. And she was super particular, and she was also particular and vague at the same time. Like, have you ever had a person like that where they were like, you did it wrong, but I don't know how to tell you to fix it, and I can't tell you exactly what you did wrong. Like, she was like one of those. So it was a choreography class, so we had to put together our own choreography. And I stepped in high school, I did step dance in high school. And so I said, okay, I want to do, like they would call it in modern dance, body percussion, right? Where I would do a dance and do a slap. So I remember doing a whole dance on body percussion. And then at the end, I did Miss Mary Mac, all dressed in black, black, black. And I did the rest of the song, right? And at the end of it, my teacher came up to me and she said, Dielle, I loved what you did, but I thought you were going to make it about the Black Lives Matter movement, because she followed me on Facebook, and this was like when everything was happening. And she's like, I thought you would do it about the Black Lives Matter movement. And I was like, oh, okay. That's all she said to me. That one sentence. She didn't tell me how. It was a 9-minute dance. Like, she didn't tell me what part and what to do and how to didn't say any of that. She just planted that one idea in me. I redid the whole thing. I changed the little slap at the end. I did like a schoolgirl outfit, and I acted like a child in the Black Lives Matter movement, and I portrayed that movement from a child's lens. I changed all the choreography. I put a red ribbon in my hair to look like I was in school, and that dance got so many awards. It was featured in the local newspaper. I got put in the gala, which is like you have to qualify your dance to be in a gala. It was my first time ever being in a gala, and it went over beautifully. And the mentor said one thing to me, and I had to run with it, right? And so I really want you all to be thinking that way. I'm going to just be planting seeds, but y'all going to have to row and water and rake and be like, okay, how can this look? And let me right? So I really just want to encourage you all to approach today and the next couple of days in that way. Any questions, any thoughts? Oh, some examples. I also wanted to give a few client examples on this. So I often talk about Kirsten. Kirsten Roldan. Kirsten, raise your hand. She's one of my really good friends too, Kirsten Roldan. So we often talk about $1 Million Email, which is her program, and she's had massive, massive success with her launches, 100K, 200K launches with her program of $1 Million Email. When she first came to me, I suggested that she did $1 Million Email, and she glazed over me and did nothing with it for a whole year, right? She was like, I don't have the capacity for that. She focused on other aspects of her business. And then one day we came back to it, and she was like, I want to do a program. And I gave her some tough coaching. She had some feelings and some emotions about it. And then eventually she said, okay, I'm going to do an email program. And she had so many thoughts about it. She was like, email is boring. Do people just want email? They want funnels. They want this, all these thoughts. She coached herself, and she made it her own. She created amazing philosophies from it. She created amazing curriculum from it, stuff I never could have come up with. She put a writing retreat and added copy reviews, all these things in the program that I never could have came up with. It was just my job to plant the seed, right? Then I also think about Gina's program, 7-Figure Wealth. When she came to me, she had a retirement mastermind. And I was like, absolutely not. I was like, we're not doing that. And I was like, maybe it should be about home. And they were like, no, what if the people who already have home? So we workshop a little bit. And then she was able to have her mastermind, 7-Figure Wealth. She ran with it. She created all of these ideas from it. She created the angle of, oh my God, I just lost it. Trust fund baby, what was it? Can I have the mic? Table 1. Table 3.
Hi, it's Gina.
Table 4.
Table 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm Gina. The angle was, I'm the trust fund baby your kids will be.
Yeah. There was no way I could have came up with that. Yeah, isn't that good? There was no way I could have came up with that. It was just my job to be like, girl, you ain't doing no retirement mastermind. You're going to do a wealth mastermind. And then she ran with it. And then I also think about Harry. She had a celebrity angle. She already had her program, but we were thinking about how to make her program differently. And so we were saying she should have a celebrity angle because she has done makeup for some of the biggest names and the biggest celebrities. Y'all should look on her Instagram. You'll see it. She's done. Who have you done, Harry? Get the mic.
Come on, Harriet.
Table 3.
I'm Harry. I've done Doja Cat, Chelsea Handler, Naomi Watts, and people like that.
Yay. Look. People like that. Just people like that, right?
Celebrities, yeah.
Celebrities. She's like, I've done celebrities, right? I've done celebrities. And for a while, she wasn't talking about that, and she didn't want to, right? And I didn't push her. So again, a lot of this has to do with the pace that you all are at. I move at your pace. Just like with Kirsten, she didn't want to talk about email for a year. I was like, okay, right? And so I'm going to be moving with y'all's pace, right? So when you're ready, we're ready. But when you're not, you're not. And I'm waiting on you all to give me that go ahead. But from that, when she decided to be ready, she ran with the idea. She ran with it. On her Instagram, she would recreate the makeup look she did for celebrities on her reels. I never could have thought of that, right? And it was so interesting, and she got so much engagement, and it was so cool. I never could have thought of that. So I'm just giving you all different examples on what happens when I give you all an idea and I say, run with it, right? Come up with things I never can come up with. It's just my job to plant the seed. Any questions on that? Any questions? Virtual people. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. I also just want to talk about my story. Some of you all I know very, very well, and some of you I don't. So I just want to run through my story. So I'm a social worker by trade. I have my master's in social work. I have my bachelor's in social work. I'm a social worker by trade. I love social work. You'll hear that come out in so many different instances. So much of how I run my business is from the philosophies and the principles of social work. And I had 6 figures of student loan debt. Multiple 6 figures of student loan debt. I was only making $2,500 a month as a social worker. I had a 3-hour commute to Duke University where I worked. And I did that for almost 3 years straight. And that's also where I started my business because I wanted to know how to make money outside of my 9-to-5 job. And so I made $1,000 in 2018. That was my very first client. She was in the UK. I found her in a Facebook group, made $1,000. 2019, I was heavy in strategy and bro marketing. I was doing all the funnels, all the email stuff. I had a whole product suite. And I made $40,000 with a 9-to-5 job. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. 2020, I learned about the model. I learned about the life coach school. And I decided, this is big, I decided on my person, which is women of color coaches. And I made $300,000 with a 9-to-5 job. That was a big, big jump. And mindset work had a lot to do with that. Simplifying my business model had a lot to do with that. And then picking my person and my skill had a lot to do with that. Once I niched down, people then could figure me out, right? Then they could be like, okay, what should I, how should I interact with this person? How can this person help me, right? So that was a really, really big jump there. But during 300K that year, I had so many different offers. I was doing all these certain things. I also was still juggling my 9-to-5 job. We were in the pandemic. That was also the year that I got married. So I was, paying for a wedding. It was a year I worked very, very hard, and it was very, very messy. You'll hear me talk about this. I had a lot of halfway filled offers. So halfway filled groups. So I wanted 10 people and I would get 5. And then I wanted 8 one-on-one clients, but I would only have 3, right? So halfway filled offers, and it was a mess. So I don't want to paint a rosy color picture about that 300K. It was a mess, which is why then I cleaned up my business model in 2021. I cleaned up my business model. I had success launching, but I went back to one-on-one coaching to clean it all up. I was also excited. I was super, super excited. I was like, I'm a full-time coach. All I want to do is coach. So many times in our business, we want to do everything but coach. That's our only job. That's why we started doing this, is to coach, right? I always tell my team, we be having 2-hour-long meetings, or like and I'll talk about it in event science, all of this to put together for you all for me to do what I'm doing right now. We work for a whole year on an event just to do what I'm doing right now, which is to coach, which is to teach, which is to show up for you all, right? And so I was super excited. I went back to one-on-one coaching. I niched down to sales, and I mastered launching. So I went to one-on-one coaching. I got fully booked in 30 days with a $10,000 offer. I wasn't playing around. I was selling one-on-one coaching. It was very active. It was very like, this is what I want to do. Like, I was pushing one-on-one coaching and got fully booked. So if I tell you to go back to one-on-one coaching because you have halfway sold offers, you can get fully booked very quickly if you don't argue. Right? The arguing will slow you down. You could get fully booked in 30 days. You could get fully booked in a quarter, right? If you don't argue, right? And so when I tell you to do it, don't think you have to do it for years and years and years, right? Don't think you have to do it for years and years and years. So then once I got fully booked with one-on-one coaching, I was then ready for a group. And that experience of having me get fully booked for one-on-one coaching, what that did was it also made me a better coach. Because when I was like halfway groups, halfway one-on-one, I was a decent coach, but there's nothing like that FaceTime with one-on-one clients. You get good quick. You get good at coaching so quickly, right? I credit so many of my concepts to one-on-one coaching. I came up with undergoaling. I came up with Disney World. I came up with my sales call process, like my signature sales call process that has helped hundreds of people in 5-figure freedom from, I remember, I will never forget it, one-on-one session with a client who was a life coach out in LA, and she was like, I don't understand scripts. So I was challenged with how can I teach sales calls without a script, and I came up with my process that has helped so many people. So I also became a phenomenal coach because of one-on-one coaching. You're going to hear me champion one-on-one coaching a lot here because I think it's so important. Going back to this, once I did that, I then mastered sales and I mastered launching, and I had my first 6-figure launch. I actually had two. I had 2 6-figure launches, and I made $500K. You'll hear me say that $500K was my favorite year in business. It was lovely. It was lovely. I had so much money. All my clients loved me. I could still now sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I could wrap my arms around my business, right? I still had so much freedom. I was living in the miracle of like, I'm out of Duke University, like, like I love 500K. Then I scaled to $1 million. Which was a lot more challenging. So for 2022, I sold 2 programs, 90% through launching, 10% through an evergreen funnel. No ads, though. That was an organic funnel for my funnel people. No ads. It was an organic funnel. I made $1 million with 5 launches, 3 for 5-figure freedom, 2 for liberation. Very simple. Very, very simple. We were hitting our goals, and well, we weren't always hitting our goals. We were hitting the baseline for both of those offers and both of those launches. So I did $1 million in 11 months. In November, we hit $1 million. Any other questions or any questions about the $1 million and everything that I just described before I talk about 2023? Any questions? Yes.
Table 1.
Hi, I'm Kiera. I was wondering how much of that came from freedom and how much came from liberation?
Great question. I think I was, okay, so I want to say 60% liberation. I call it Libby. 60% Libby. Technically, it might have been like 55%, 45%. Yeah, so but very even. Very, very even, yes. Yes. Any other questions? No? Okay. This year, we've made $1 million so far. We've already made $1 million so far. We've had 3 launches, so we're getting better with our launches. We're hitting our goals more with our launches. 2 for freedom, 1 for liberation, and we just made our first ad sale. Hallelujah. Oh, I'm so grateful. I know how to make money without a damn ad. No, like, I'm in like these higher level masterminds now. I'm in a few different ones. And like when they're like, ad cost is low, oh my God. And like they actually have like 25%, 30% less because of ads. I'm like, I'm so glad I know how to do a launch without one ad. It's such an important skill, especially for some of my people that have dabbled with ads. Learning how to launch without them can save your ass. Like, it could just save you. It's so important. Any questions about my story? I just want to be transparent of like how I got here and everything that I did. Any questions? Virtual? Table one. Table one.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, this is Asya. And I wanted to know, when you were in that, because it sounds vaguely familiar, when you were in that like half-filled group, half-filled
Yeah.
one-on-one, can you talk a little bit about how you made the transition? Like, since you already had people in the group,
Sure.
or, you know, all that good stuff.
Yeah, sure. So this is all marketing, right? So I didn't like refund anybody or stop or like kick people out. I kept my group call schedule, but once the group ended, I didn't launch another one immediately, right? I was just like, okay, the group's over. I don't, join my one-on-one coaching. And some of the women from my group joined my one-on-one coaching. Yeah, they just joined my one-on-one coaching. But yes, I kept with the same groups. I kept with the same people. And then once they were over, I just didn't do another group right away. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? Okay. Now let's get into some work. Y'all ready? A philosophy-based coaching business. So this is kind of like the premise of what I teach, right? A philosophy-based coaching business. So there's lots of ways to build a coaching business. Y'all have followed so many podcasts. Y'all have seen so many different ways of building a coaching business, right? But kind of how I teach is a philosophy-based coaching business, meaning people are paying for your philosophies. People want to be in your space because of your philosophies and what you think. Another way of saying philosophy is like your perspective, how you think about something, and I have some examples. So we're going to spend a lot of time, again, talking about frameworks, right? Talking about your concepts and how you position and sell those concepts so that your people are able to enroll in your programs. So a philosophy-based coaching business is the fastest way to grow, in my opinion. People buy into a certain way of thinking, and they buy into a community who thinks a certain way, right? So it's I'm going to just guess. It's okay if you are, but I'm going to just guess. There's not a lot of my people that will also go to a Tony Robbins event. That's super masculine, that's super intense, right? Like, they necessarily wouldn't go to a Tony Robbins event because people are buying into a certain way of thinking. People are buying into a certain community, right? Or I even think about like intermittent fasting, right? Like, I'm in like an intermittent fasting Facebook group, and some of my friends do intermittent fasting, right? So we're always like, we would never go out to brunch. We're intermittent fasting, right? Like, because we all think in a certain way, our bodies respond in a certain way, right? And so people buy into philosophies. People buy into how someone thinks. I want y'all to be thinking that. Like, people buy a way that I think. People buy my concepts and my philosophies, right? They don't necessarily buy an offer. All right? They don't necessarily buy an offer. They don't necessarily buy like, the 5 coaching calls. They're like, oh, like a lot of like what you all said on your intake forms and your applications were, oh, I like how Dielle thinks. I like how Dielle thinks, right? I like how she thinks. I like what she does. I like how she makes decisions. So it's super important when you're thinking about philosophies. So what is included in a philosophy-based business? 1 or 2 offers that everyone knows about. Everyone knows about these 1 to 2 offers, right? Everyone knows about these offers. The philosophies that someone can learn only from them. This will eliminate your competition. If you have clients going other places, it's because of this, right? Or if you have people seeing your coaching as optional, right? Seeing your coaching as like, well, I can just get it somewhere over here and I can get it over there. It's because you don't have philosophies that they can only learn from you, right? That they can only learn from you. They piss off their non-ideal clients. They piss people off. I piss people off all the time. All the time. People don't agree with me, right? All the time. All the time. They have simple, boring marketing channels. Simple, boring marketing channels. I'm going to use some examples in a second. They're not trying to do a lot, right? Like these people are not necessarily on threads, right? They're not on threads, right? They have very simple, boring marketing channels. They repeat the same marketing channels over and over and over again. And they become household names. They become household names. Let me give you some examples. My good old boy, Dave. My good old boy, Dave. He's obviously not the best example, but his business model, ooh. Oh, I didn't. It's my fault. Oh my God, I haven't been doing any of this. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Y'all say something. It's flat. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Next time y'all say something, please say something. Because I'm like, why isn't it up there? I know my slides so well, so I'm just kind of like blah, 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 blah. Okay. Dave, let's talk about my boy Dave. 1 to 2 offers that everyone knows about. Here's the words of that. 1 to 2 offers that everybody knows about. Philosophies that someone can learn that only come from them. They piss off their non-ideal clients. Simple, boring marketing. And they become household names. Let's talk about Dave. Financial Peace University, right? In his book. Everybody knows about those offers. Financial Peace University, and they know about his book, right? And then they also know the philosophies. Cash envelope system. The 7 baby steps. Cash is king. Cut up your credit cards, right? He also pisses people off. Cut up your credit cards. Live off of ramen. That makes people so angry, right? Like that pisses people off that they say like, well, he literally will say you shouldn't be going out on vacation, right? That makes people so upset. He pisses off his non-ideal clients. His simple, boring marketing, he just has that talk show. He just be sitting there answering questions. That's the only marketing he does. Men with the podcast, literally. But like he's been doing this before podcasts were even out, right? He's been doing this for decades. Simple, boring marketing. He's not over here doing reels, or like his team is repurposing on reels, right? But like that's all that he's doing. Simple, boring marketing. Over 100 million in revenue. This is it. This is it. Over 100 million in revenue. It's so simple, right? It's so simple. Oh, clicker. Okay. Brooke Castillo. Everyone knows about Brooke, I think so. She has a membership and a certification. She don't do a lot from that, right? She has a membership and a certification. She has her philosophy, which is the model. She pisses people off. Caesar neutral. Not a lot of people agree, right? Even in my own videos, I say Caesar neutral, outside of racism and trauma, but Caesar neutral, right? Like not everybody agrees. That makes a lot of people upset and angry. Thoughts create your results. There's a lot of people that don't like that. Life is 50-50. There's a lot of people that don't like that. No, I should be happy all the time, right? And so they have very controversial opinions. That dang podcast. And her team tried, like, I don't know if you like looked at her in 2022. Her team tried to get her on Instagram and get her on Reels. And she was like, y'all, she was doing a 50 lessons for her 50th birthday. She stopped at 48. She stopped at 48. She couldn't do it. She was like, this is dumb. Like, she stopped, right? It's that simple, boring podcast, right? 50 million in revenue. Simple, right? But it's the philosophy that people want. People want the philosophy. People are like, I want to learn the model, right? People are like, I want to learn the seven baby steps. And like, I was thinking a lot about these examples. And I was talking to Kirsten. I was like, I need someone, a woman of color. I need someone. But it's like, women of color, Black women specifically, we start businesses the fastest and we exit businesses the fastest too. And sometimes it's because we're not looking at the white people and what they're doing, right? And so sometimes I try to balance myself out by like looking at women of color businesses and very socially conscious business. And then I'll also look at the people that love capitalism to balance myself out and to see where can I fall and what can I learn from them and what are they doing that we aren't doing and how can we do it in our way.